You're standing in a cave in central China. The year is roughly 3,000 years ago. It's thick, curved. Not like any beast he's ever killed. He holds it up to the light. And in that moment, a dragon is born. But here's what should stop you cold. That same moment played out on every continent. Cultures that never traded a single grain of wheat, never shared a word of language, never crossed each other's borders. They all built the same monster. Not similar monsters. The same one. Coiled body, claws, wings, fangs. Why? To answer that, we need to go deeper than myth. We need to go inside your skull. Right now, buried in the oldest part of your brain, there's a system that fires before you can even think. It doesn't ask for details. It doesn't wait for you to decide. It reacts. And it reacts fastest to three shapes. A coiled form on the ground. A set of forward-facing eyes. A shadow sweeping from above. Snake, big cat, bird of prey. These are the three killers that shaped us for millions of years. And your brain still treats them like a live threat. Brain scans show that when people are flashed images of snakes, the fear center lights up before the visual brain can even finish processing what the image is. Your fear response does its job before your aware mind even starts. Put a toy snake in front of a baby, too young to crawl, too young to know what a snake even is, and that baby will stare at it longer than any other shape in the room. Not a little longer, noticeably longer. The baby can't name the fear, but the fear is already running. Show that same baby a hawk outline with spread wings, and the stare spikes again. These reactions don't need teaching. They come preloaded. Now think about what happens when you blend those fears. Not one killer, all three. A body that coils and strikes like a serpent. Claws that grip and tear like a lion. Wings that blot out the sun like an eagle. Every part triggers a different alarm in your brain, and together they don't cancel out. They stack. The result is something worse than any real animal. Something your mind can't look away from. Something it can't forget. But that still doesn't explain why this creature showed up in places as far apart as Norway and the Amazon basin. Picture a map of the old world. Light up every culture that built a dragon myth, and you get dozens of spots glowing across the globe. Yoruba tales in West Africa, Aztec carvings in Mexico, Norse sagas in the frozen north, Hindu texts in the river plains of India, Aboriginal stories in Australia describing the rainbow serpent, a creature that shaped rivers with its body and ruled the sky. These aren't neighbors. Some of them are oceans apart. And yet, most of these cultures gave their monster the same core design. Serpent body, wings, or flight. The easy answer is trade. Someone told the story. Someone else carried it along the Silk Road, and it spread like fire. But the timeline doesn't hold up. Chinese dragon charms carved in jade were already ancient before the Silk Road opened for trade over 1,000 years later. The myth was old before the first caravan ever set out. Norse tales of wingless serpent beasts appear centuries after Vikings had contact with the East. If trade carried the dragon story, the dates should line up. They don't. So if it wasn't trade, what was it? Go back to that cave in China. That farmer holding the giant bone. He wasn't the only one. Across the Sichuan Basin alone, over 100 sites were logged before modern science arrived. Places where massive bones jutted from cliff walls and cave floors. Locals called them dragon caves. They sold the bones to healers, ground them into powder, brewed them into medicine. These weren't fantasy. These were real bones. Spines from huge plant-eating dinosaurs, ribs the length of a grown man. And without any framework to explain them, the most logical leap was clear. Something enormous once lived here. Something with bones too big for any known creature. A dragon. The same pattern shows up in Greece. In the rocky plains of Thessaly, dozens of sites turned up strange skulls and pieces. Local myths of many-headed serpents took root right where those bones surfaced. The ground was whispering, and people listened. On the island of Samos, ancient Greeks dug up enormous thigh bones from creatures like early giraffes and mastodons. The bones were so large they were displayed in temples as proof that giants and monsters had once walked the earth. Fossil and myth weren't separate things. They were the same conversation. But fossils alone can't build a dragon. Bones don't have wings. Bones don't breathe fire. Something else shaped the final creature, and that something was the way human memory works. Here's a detail that changes the whole picture. When researchers tested how well people remember made-up creatures, the ones built from multiple real fears, say fangs plus claws plus wings, stuck in memory far better than any single animal design. Your brain treats a three-threat monster like a priority file. It flags it, stores it deep, and refuses to let it fade. A dragon isn't just scary, it's designed, by accident, to be unforgettable. This is why storytellers across the world kept coming back to the same formula. Not because they copied each other, because the formula works on every human brain. A village elder building a tale around a giant bone didn't need to know about how the mind works. They just needed to describe the scariest thing they could imagine. And the scariest thing is always a blend. Always a creature that hits more than one alarm at once. But would this theory hold if every dragon looked the same? It wouldn't. And they don't. Here's where local culture takes over. In the East, dragons stretch long and thin. Their bodies coil like rivers. Whiskers trail from their jaws. Wings are rare. These are water creatures, tied to rain, floods, seasons. In the West, the shape flips. European dragons are stocky, built like fortresses, with wide wingspans and heavy limbs. Fire breath shows up in most Western art. Horns appear far more often in European designs than Eastern ones. Same core fear, same fossil spark, completely different finish. The local filter, what the culture valued, feared, worshipped, shaped the final form. A river-based farming society built a water serpent that controlled the rain. A mountain kingdom surrounded by wolves and bears built a fire-breathing beast that hoarded gold in deep caves. The dragon became a mirror. It reflected whatever a culture feared most about its own landscape. In Central America, where jaguars ruled the jungle floor and quetzal birds owned the canopy, the feathered serpent merged earth predator and sky predator into a single divine being. The same blending rule filtered through a completely different world. Now someone might push back here. They might say, sure, some myths came first, but the similar details, the scales, the claws, the reptile eyes, those must have spread through contact at some point. And that's a fair challenge. Ancient seals from the Middle East show winged serpent blends. Carvings from Babylon feature the same mix. Could one original design have seeded the rest? The problem is distance. Olmec carvings of feathered serpents in Mexico are ancient too. There's no known link between Olmec artists and seal cutters in the Middle East. No ship route, no overland path, no shared ancestor close enough in time to carry the image. The simplest answer, and the one the evidence supports, is that these cultures solved the same puzzle the same way. Not because they talked to each other, because they were all human. That said, trade did play a role, just not the starring one. Once caravan routes opened, once ships crossed open water, dragon stories did hitch rides. Travelers traded beast tales alongside silk and spice. Local myths absorbed new details. A Chinese water dragon might gain a European horn. A Norse serpent might pick up a Persian ridge along its spine. Spreading stories didn't invent the dragon, but it dressed it up. You can think of cultural contact as paint layered over a frame that was already standing. It changed the surface without changing the bones underneath. There's one more piece that most people get wrong. The split between found good Eastern dragons and Hao's evil Western ones is far too clean. Chinese dragons could unleash storms that wrecked entire harvests. They were feared as much as loved. The dragon kings of Chinese myth, demanded offerings, and villages that failed to honor them expected floods and ruin. European worms sometimes guarded sacred springs or protected holy sites. The Welsh red dragon was a national protector, not a villain. The idea that East equals kind and West equals wicked is a modern shortcut. The real picture is messier. Dragons everywhere sat on the line between awe and terror, because that's exactly where the most powerful symbols live. And fire-breathing, not a Western invention either. Chinese texts from long ago link dragon breath to hot springs and steam vents in the mountains. People saw boiling water erupt from the earth and heard it hiss like a living thing. Dragon breath wasn't fantasy. It was the earth itself, dressed in scales. So, what does all of this tell us? Not just about dragons, about us. We are creatures that blend. We take a bone in the dirt, a fear in our nerves, and a story around a fire, and we fuse them into something bigger than any single part. We do it without planning. We do it on every continent, and the result is so powerful that it survives for thousands of years, crossing every border that language and distance can build. If stories like this one pull you in, the next one goes even deeper into how ancient minds made sense of a world they couldn't explain. Subscribe, and you won't miss it. A farmer holds a bone up to the light. 3,000 years later, you're still looking at what he saw.